I've got a story that'll make you think twice about hiking in the Pine Barrens, straight from my buddy Max. He's not one for tall tales, spends his days swinging a hammer, building decks, and cracking lame dad jokes over beers. But when he opened up about the summer of '92, when he tangled with something in those Jersey woods, his voice got low, his hands shaky. It's not just another ghost story, it's personal, and it's haunted him for decades. The Pine Barrens, that sprawling, eerie forest in South Jersey, is famous for the Jersey Devil and weird lights in the sky, but what Max ran into was worse: a ghostly soldier, a witch, and a cabin that moves on its own. He swears something followed him out of those woods, and after hearing it, I don't camp alone anymore. It was July 1992, and Max was 19, a lanky college kid with a chipped tooth and a chip on his shoulder. He'd fallen in with a group of self-styled paranormal investigators, really just 5 nerds chasing UFOs and Bigfoot rumors. There was Max, his best friend Jake, a loudmouth with a buzz cut, Lisa, the group's planner who kept everyone in line, Tim, a quiet guy who sketched everything, and Sarah, who believed every conspiracy theory she read. They'd caught wind of a blurb in the Philly Inquirer about odd happenings in the Pine Barrens, nothing dramatic, no vanishings or time slips, but enough local gossip to pique their interest. Hunters swore the woods were cursed, whispering about ghosts and strange clearings where compasses spun. Max and Jake, both hard-headed skeptics, figured it'd be a fun weekend to mess around and debunk some myths. They loaded a rusty Dodge van with camping gear, cheap beer, and a Polaroid camera and drove from Philadelphia to Chatsworth, a small town squatting on the edge of the Barrens. The Pine Barrens are a world apart, miles of sandy trails twisting through stunted pines, cedar bogs reeking of rot, and air so thick with humidity it feels like breathing soup. The forest plays tricks, paths double back, landmarks vanish, and the silence can swallow you whole. The group pitched tents near an abandoned cranberry bog, the ground spongy under their boots. That first night, they hit a dive bar in town, the kind with flickering neon and peanut shells on the floor. There, they met Ethan and Cody, 2 local brothers with sunburned faces and stories to spare. Over greasy fries and flat soda, the brothers dropped the Barrens' darkest tale, the ghost of a soldier named Hank. Hank was a Korean War vet who came home to Chatsworth in '53, broken by what he'd seen overseas. He drank hard, fought harder, and one night, in a whiskey-fueled rage, he killed his wife, Ellen, and 2 neighbors with a kitchen knife. When the fog cleared, he stumbled into the Barrens, knotted a rope around a pine, and hanged himself. The town found him, cut him down, and buried him in an unmarked grave, but that didn't end it. On full moon nights, hunters or teenagers on dares would spot him dangling from a tree, his fatigues faded, his boots swaying in the dusk. Ethan's voice dropped as he leaned in. My uncle saw him in '85. Said his eyes were black, like holes. You don't want to meet him. Cody nodded, adding that the soldier wasn't alone out there. The Barrens had witch clearings, perfect circles of dirt sprouting only toadstools, where an old woman's ghost roamed. She'd been a recluse in the 1800s, maybe a midwife who dabbled in darker arts. Now she haunted the clearings, offering mushrooms to anyone who crossed her path, especially kids. She'll follow you, Cody warned. Whisper till you lose your mind. Max laughed it off, elbowing Jake. Sounds like something you'd make up to scare tourists. Jake grinned, but Lisa shifted uncomfortably, stirring her coffee. Let's focus on the lights we came for, she said. No ghost hunts. Sarah, scribbling in her notebook, looked intrigued, but Tim just sketched the bar's jukebox, staying quiet. Max didn't buy the stories, not yet, but the brothers' dead serious faces stuck with him, like a splinter he couldn't dig out. The next night was a full moon, the sky clear, the forest bathed in silver light. Max and Jake, buzzed on Miller Lite and Ethan's tale, decided to take a walk into the woods to prove the soldier was bunk. The others stayed at camp, tending a fire that crackled against the chirping crickets. Max knew the Barrens a little. They'd scouted a trail that morning, and the woods weren't too thick near the bog. We're just taking a loop, he told Lisa, who handed him a flashlight with a frown. Don't be idiots. Jake slung a backpack with water, a Walkman, and some beef jerky, winking. "Idiot's my specialty." The woods were still at first, the air heavy with pine and damp earth. Moonlight sliced through the trees, casting jagged shadows that danced on the path. Max felt a twinge of unease right away, like someone was watching from the dark, but he kept it to himself. Jake was louder, kicking stones and humming "Smells Like Teen Spirit," acting like they were on a field trip. They followed a sandy trail, figuring it'd curve back to camp in 20 minutes. About a quarter-mile in, Jake froze, his breath catching. "Yo, check that out," he whispered, pointing to a gnarled pine. A rope hung from a branch, tied into a noose, swaying though the air was dead still. Max's stomach lurched, but he forced a smirk. "Locals messing with us. Bet Cody rigged it." Jake nodded, but his hands were fists. "Yeah, sure. Let's bounce." They turned back, expecting the fire's glow any second. But the path kept going, the trees pressing closer, their branches like fingers brushing Max's neck. He checked his watch. 30 minutes had passed, way too long for the short trail. "We're lost," he muttered, sweeping the flashlight ahead. Jake swore, his voice tight. "No way, man. Camp's right there." They pushed on, faster, the air growing colder, the moonlight fainter. Then they saw it again, the same pine, same rope, same noose, dangling like it was waiting. "This ain't right," Jake said, his bravado gone. Max's heart hammered. "It's a trick. Someone's screwing with us." But his voice shook, and he didn't believe it anymore. They picked a new direction, half jogging through tangled brush, thorns snagging their jeans. 10 minutes later, they stopped dead. The tree was back, or they were. The rope hung there, taunting them, and now there was a figure in the noose, a man in tattered fatigues, his head lolled to one side, boots hovering above the dirt. His face was shadowed, but Max swore he saw eyes, black, empty, glinting like oil. Jake grabbed Max's arm, his nails digging in. "We're outta here. Now." They bolted, branches whipping their faces, the flashlight beam jerking wildly. Max's lungs burned, his mind screaming that this was impossible. But when they stumbled to a halt, gasping, the tree loomed again. The soldier hung silently, his body swaying, one hand twitching like it was reaching for them. Max doesn't like talking about the escape. He says it felt like the forest was alive, looping them back, toying with them. They ran until their legs gave out, the woods spitting them out near camp just before midnight. They burst through the trees, pale and heaving, to find Lisa, Tim, and Sarah staring, marshmallows forgotten. "What the hell happened?" Sarah asked, her voice sharp. Jake collapsed by the fire, muttering, "Nothing." Max didn't mention the soldier, not then. He couldn't shake those eyes, like they'd followed him back. That night, he sat up in his tent, clutching the flashlight, every rustle making him jump. The group stayed one more day, sticking to daylight, but Max was on edge. He kept replaying Ethan's other story, about the witch clearings. 2 of them, supposedly, perfect circles of barren dirt, sprouting only pale, slimy toadstools. Step inside, and you'd see a rotted stump that wasn't a stump. It'd move, stand, and become an old woman, her dress tattered, her basket full of mushrooms. She'd hum a tune that burrowed into your skull, and if you met her eyes, she'd trail you, whispering, "Try my mushrooms, just a bite." Kids heard her most, but lone hikers got it too, especially at dusk. She could muddle you, make you wander all night, the forest shifting like a dream. Max hadn't believed it, but after the soldier, he was questioning everything. The last afternoon, he needed air. The others were packing, Jake still rattled, snapping at everyone. Max slipped away, following a trail near the bog, the sun low, painting the pines gold. He wasn't looking for trouble, just space to think. That's when he found it, a clearing, round as a plate, covered in greasy toadstools that smelled like death. The air was wrong, heavy with rot and something metallic. In the center was a stump, blackened and twisted. Max stared, his skin prickling, and then it shifted, not much, just a shudder, like it was alive. He blinked, and it wasn't a stump anymore. An old woman stood there, her back bent, her hair a gray tangle. She plucked toadstools, dropping them into a wicker basket, humming a melody that made his ears ring. His legs locked. She didn't look up, just kept picking, her fingers gnarled like roots. Then she spoke, her voice a dry rasp. "Found a good one. Want a taste?" Max's throat closed. He backed away, slow, then ran, his sneakers slipping on sand. When he looked back, the clearing was empty, no woman, no toadstools, just pine swaying lazily. He didn't tell the group. They were spooked enough, and he wasn't sure what he'd seen. But that hum stuck with him, like a song he couldn't unhear. Back in Philly, Max tried to move on. He threw himself into classes, part-time jobs, anything to keep busy. But the Barrens followed him. He'd wake up hearing that hum, or the creak of a rope, his heart racing. He started checking his windows at night, convinced something was outside. Once, he swore he saw a shadow in his dorm's parking lot, tall, still, gone when he blinked. He told me about it years later, at a dive bar near the Schuylkill River, his voice barely above the jukebox. "It wasn't just the soldier," he said, rubbing his eyes. "That witch, she's still out there. I feel her, man, like she's waiting for me to slip up." I asked if he'd gone back. He snorted. "You crazy? Those woods can keep their ghosts." There was more he didn't tell the group, stuff he only shared with me. The locals had whispered about a cabin, tied to the witch, hidden deep in the Barrens. Hunters would stumble on it, a rotting shack, windows black, smelling of mold and blood. Inside, they'd find bones in jars, toadstools sprouting through the floor, and worse. In the 70s, a guy claimed he saw bodies, skeletal, draped in cobwebs, hanging from the beams. He led the cops back, but the cabin was gone. Months later, another hiker saw it miles away, in a different corner of the forest. Max never found it, but he dreamed about it, a shack in the fog, the witch at the door, holding a mushroom with a smile like broken glass. In the dream, the soldier was there too, swaying in the yard, his eyes black pits. The dreams got bad enough that Max saw a therapist, though he never mentioned ghosts, just stress. He started carrying a pocket knife, said it was for work, but I saw him grip it when we passed wooded lots. He'd flinch at certain sounds, a low hum, a rope creaking in the wind. One night, he called me at 3 a.m., half drunk, saying he'd heard footsteps outside his apartment, heavy and slow, like boots on gravel. "It's nothing," he said, but his voice was hollow. I drove over, found him sitting on his couch, knife in hand, staring at the door. We didn't talk about it after. Max is okay now, more or less. He's married, got a daughter, lives in a tidy suburb outside Philly. He coaches Little League, grills burgers on weekends, keeps his lawn neat. But he won't go near the Barrens, not even for a day trip to the shore. Lisa's the same, she's a librarian in Trenton, avoids anything spooky. They don't talk about that summer, not even at reunions. Max keeps a flashlight by his bed, says it's for power outages, but I know better. He's got a radio too, always tuned to a jazz station, just in case the woods curse stretches beyond Jersey. I've hiked the Barrens a few times, day trips, main trails, nothing deep. It's wild and lonely, the kind of place that feels alive. But when the sun dips, or the wind carries a hum, I think of Max's story, and I'm out before the moon rises.